It was one of those nights when the cold doesn't just reach your bones, it slips into your thoughts, into your memories, and stays there twisting among the shadows of a city that seems to have forgotten what human warmth feels like. The neon lights flickered with a tired glow, the sound of cars blended with the rain, and every reflection on the wet asphalt looked like a photograph of a life that was once bright and now only a distant echo. In that corner of nowhere, under the dying sign of an old diner long closed, a boy curled up looking for shelter. His name was Ethan Parker, 17 years in body, but at least 50 in his eyes. His coat was torn, his shoes were falling apart, and the blanket covering him barely fooled the winter that seemed to mock him. Hunger was constant, but what hurt most was the absence of belonging, the feeling of not existing. And yet, in the middle of all that abandonment, there was still something left inside him, a phrase his mother used to repeat so many times that it had become an eternal whisper in his head. If you can help, even when you have nothing, you'll always be richer than those who have everything but an empty heart. And before we continue this story, if you've ever felt that the road, the roar of an engine, or a story changed you deep inside, visit Hell's Road store. Every jacket, every ring you'll find there isn't just merchandise, it's a promise to keep riding even when the world stands still. The link is in the description.
Ethan stared at the reflections of the lights on the puddles, and for a moment, he thought the world out there kept turning without him. Days without food, nights without sleep, years without hearing his own name. What hurt most wasn't the hunger or the cold, it was the cruel certainty that if he disappeared that night, no one would notice. Sometimes he imagined someone finding him, looking him in the eyes, and saying he still mattered. But dreams dissolve quickly when the wind cuts your face and reality whispers that you're alone. It was in that absolute silence, the moment the city seemed to hold its breath, that he heard it. A distant roar, metallic, deep, as if fate itself were approaching on two wheels. And if you love stories that still carry a soul, stories not about impossible heroes, but about real people surviving the coldness of the world, subscribe to Hell's Road. We don't tell tales, we tell truths disguised in gasoline, scars, and redemption.
From the fog, a black Harley emerged like a ghost. Its headlight cut through the darkness, casting a pale beam that glimmered across the damp walls beneath the bridge. The engine roared, coughed up steam, and finally died with a metallic groan. From the bike stepped down a large man, his arms covered in tattoos that looked like maps of a hard life. His vest heavy with worn patches and stories only the road could tell. He limped, clutching a wounded leg, muttering curses swallowed by the rain. Ethan watched from the shadows, hesitating, torn between the instinct to stay hidden and that inner voice that still remembered his mother's words. He knew men like this could be dangerous, but he also knew that fear shouldn't decide what kind of person you are.
He took a deep breath and stepped out from the darkness. His voice trembled, fragile yet firm. "Do you need help?" The biker looked up, surprised. unable to understand what a ragged boy was doing under the rain at that hour. Ethan dropped his backpack to the ground, pulled out a few wrinkled bandages, an old rusty tool, and a handful of torn bills. With hands numb from the cold, he bandaged the man's wound, adjusted the tire, and tightened every bolt as if, in that gesture, he were fixing something more than a motorcycle, as if he were fixing a piece of himself. When he was done, he handed over the bills. "There's a gas station a few blocks away. Use this. It's all I've got." The man tried to say something, but Ethan was already fading back into the rain and the shadows. That night, he slept on the frozen ground, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a small spark of peace, the feeling that he had done something that still meant something.
Dawn didn't bring light, it brought sound. At first, distant, almost a hum. But soon it became a thunder that made the ground tremble. Ethan opened his eyes, confused, and listened to a symphony of engines rumbling beneath the bridge. Hundreds of motorcycles rolled down from the freeway like an army of steel and leather. His heart pounded. He thought something terrible was coming, that maybe he had helped the wrong man. But when the engines went silent and the air grew heavy, he saw something he would never forget. From the center of the group, the biker from the night before stepped forward. He raised his hand, and everyone fell silent. His voice echoed beneath the bridge like a vow. "This kid gave me everything when he had nothing. He fixed my bike, patched me up, and gave me his money without asking for a damn thing. The world might call him homeless, but I call him family." For a few seconds, no one moved. Then one by one, the bikers dismounted. One draped a heavy leather jacket over Ethan's shoulders. Another placed a bag of food at his feet. Another handed him an envelope of cash. And one more, a set of keys. "It's a place to sleep," the biker said. "It's yours now." Ethan fell to his knees. The rain mixed with his tears, but for the first time in years, he wasn't trembling from the cold. He was trembling from emotion. He had been invisible his whole life, but now more than 100 men surrounded him with respect. They weren't giving him charity. They were giving him back something the world had taken from him, his dignity. And if a story like this ever made you believe, even for a moment, that kindness still exists in the world, subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to help keep this flame alive. When the engines roared once more, and the Hell's Angels rode off down the road, Ethan stood alone, watching the exhaust smoke fade into the morning mist. On the wall beneath the bridge, someone had painted 3 words that seemed to glow on their own. "Kindness never dies." He smiled, the heavy jacket around his shoulders, tears streaming down his face, his heart burning warm. Sometimes the smallest acts are the ones that change everything. A bandage, a dollar, a gesture. Because when compassion is given without expecting anything in return, it doesn't just save another person,
it saves you too. And if this story touched you, let it be known. Leave a comment, share what you felt, and give this video a like so it can reach someone who might need it. You never know who you could be helping without even realizing it.
Months later, a young man in a leather jacket far too big for his body rode along the northern highway on an old Harley that growled as if it had a soul of its own. The wind hit his face with the force of memories, but this time it didn't hurt. In the rear-view mirror were the city, the bridges, the nights of hunger, and the shadows that once haunted him. Ahead, the horizon opened to a clean, silent, almost sacred dawn. It was a new beginning. On the gas tank, carved with a pocket knife, 2 words gleamed under the rising sun: "Keep riding." He was no longer the invisible boy from Seattle. He was a brother of the asphalt, a symbol of what can be born even in places where hope seems long gone. And if you too believe that kindness keeps riding, that even on the darkest roads there's still light, then visit the Hell's Road store and carry a piece of this story with you. Not as decoration, but as a reminder of what we become when we choose not to give up. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, comment with the words "Kindness never dies," and share this video so more people can remember that there are still good souls out there. You help more than you realize to keep alive the stories the world needs to hear. And before you turn off the screen, subscribe. Because what's coming next aren't just stories. They're real lives, hearts that stop and start again in the middle of the asphalt. Stories that will make you feel, think, and believe again. We'll see you on the next ride. Until then, keep your engine running, your eyes on the horizon, and remember that here on Hell's Road, kindness never dies.